But other than that, like nothing. So if that's all we got for this league, we can move on over to Italy. All right, I'm gonna start this one. I'm gonna say the
Yeah,
best
so
transfer window, Inter Milan. They started off the transfer window with a big bang. They got Hakimi from Real Madrid. That's a big one for them. They finalized the deal for Alexis Sanchez from Man U. He officially signed for him. Alexander I can never say his last name. Kolarov. There you go. He comes in from Roma for very cheap. That's just like a backup guy, maybe for the cup or whatever. Nobody knows that. Arturo Vidal is a pretty big signing for him. More experience. See if they can maybe fight for that title. And then Matteo Darmian from Parma on a free. Yeah. I just like to throw those that one player that not many people like or not many people know. So, but yeah, I think they built off of what they were doing last year, and this year in Serie A actually looks very interesting between like about 5 clubs. It's very close. So I think these guys could make a big splash in the league with these moves.
yeah, I mean, I love their window with the one exception that the squad's old, like very old. Um, they basically decided like that Conte was talking. I mean, I remember earlier we were talking about how Conte wanted like a ton of players, like 9 or 10. I mean, he got a lot of players in. Um, I think I agree with you that they've probably had the best window in Italy, just because I think that they've set themselves up for the title push this year. And I think that if they don't get it this year, I think that like that project is done just because of the age profile of their players. I mean, I love the midfield. Now, my dream midfield pairing of Engelland and Vidal can happen, but now it's happening at the twilight of their career rather than like when they were actually like the best all-around midfielders in Europe.
Like
You know,
MMA,
it's just leg breaker after Cena.
I know. They're just like
it's like Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr.
just two
Violent,
animals.
yeah, two like violent, aging box-to-box guys, basically at this point.
But they're also like really technically gifted. Like I've seen Vidal play like live, and that man has a touch and a half on him, and what I mean, he can ping a ball like nobody else. It's crazy. People forget like how technically gifted Vidal is, just because he's just such a bruiser sometimes. But yeah, no, like I think just for this season, like they've had a fantastic window. The defense is a little iffy, like letting Diego Godin go, even though Diego Godin did not have a good season last year. Like it's still depth in that back three. I mean, what was it? They played Kolarov in the back three, and that was, I mean, suspect to say the least.
The most recent back three that I've seen them play was Kolarov as the left center back. The right center back was Danilo D'Ambrosio, who played as a right midfielder or a right wing back mostly last season. And then I believe it was who's the
You got a choice of 3 guys at this point: De Vrij, Bastoni, and Skriniar.
It was Bastoni, which is crazy when the other 2 names are Stefan De Vrij and Skriniar. I think it was Bastoni.
Yep.
So they need to figure that out, certainly. I mean, Kolarov, I think, could play center back, but ideally you want Skriniar and De Vrij playing. So
You just want him taking free kicks. That's pretty much it.
yeah, you want Kolarov on free kicks and corners because that's where he's unbelievable, and shooting outside the box. But yeah, I mean, it's a great shout, Rob. I mean, their squad was already so ridiculous. I don't like really see why they can't catch Juve, but then again, I said that last summer, and they didn't catch Juve. So,
That Portuguese.
yeah, I mean, oh, and also I believe, in addition to Raja England coming back, I think they also have, I think they still have. Oh no, they don't. I thought they still had Joao
Ivan
Mario.
Perisic
They
came
did
back.
get Perisic. Yeah, Perisic is back,
Joao
and
Mario
he's
they
actually
shifted
been.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Joao
he's
Mario
at
Sporting
Sporting now.
went back to Sporting.
But they were actually trying to get rid of Nainggolan, so I don't think
Yeah.
Nainggolan is going to play very much. I believe it's going to be Vidal and Brozovic, or Vidal and Barella,
Yeah.
or Brozovic and Barella, and then it seems like Eriksson is coming back into the fold. So we'll see what happens there. But that squad was already so ridiculous. I mean, the strikers are just unbelievable. Yeah, and now you have the elite right wing back talent in the world in
Yep.
Achraf Hakimi playing in his preferred role, which is going to be good for him. So, and he's been, I believe he already has 3 assists. So
Yeah, he's off to a great start.
he's been great already. But that's all I'll say about Inter. They would have been my pick as well, probably.
The one error that I do think that they made, and it kind of compounds the age thing, is that they kind of chose Vidal over Sandro Tonali. They kind of let Sandro Tonali go to AC Milan, and I think that was probably not the smartest decision in terms of the long-term health of the club.
That makes the case for AC Milan having the best window.
Oh yeah, definitely. They had a great signings. I'm actually for once I can say like this is definitely a good window for Milan.
This is probably the best Milan. This is probably the best looking Milan side since maybe 2014 or 2015. I would say probably.
Yeah.
I mean, the players are young. The players are much younger than the squad was in 2014-15. So I think this is the best the team has looked since then for sure.
So yeah, I think like Rob was saying, like there are 4 or 5 teams like that are looking really, really exciting this year. We have no clue how Juventus are going to be. We'll get on to them in a sec. But I mean, you've got Inter challenging. I think Atalanta. This is another year that Atalanta will probably put on a push for the title. Lazio barely changed at all, but Lazio massively overperformed last season. Roma got in Marish Kumbula, who Seth is a big fan of. You can see the smile on his face. He's so excited. So yeah, like I don't know, and Napoli, I think Gattuso has actually done well with this Napoli squad, and he's kept players that I thought they were going to let go of. Thought Milik was going to go, but he kept failing medicals all around the world. Lozano looks like he's staying. So yeah, I think Serie A just on virtue, based on like the windows that we've seen, it just looks more exciting. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement.
I believe Milik is actually. I believe Milik is not actually eligible to play for Napoli.
Really interesting.
So I believe his contract was either terminated or he was coming to the end of his contract already, and then he was not put in their squad for the Serie A season. So
yeah, so
I
he wasn't
guess
put in their squad.
I think he can only appear in like other competitions now.
It's a bit of a stinker because they kept trying to offload him, and no one. People were willing to take him, but they just,
they were able to bring in Victor Osimhen, which was a truly
huge.
Just unbelievable fee. I almost couldn't believe my eyes when it happened because it was so much money. And the fact that they didn't sell Milik for anything makes that move look a little bit crazy now.
Yep.
I think.
I mean, I like the signing of Osimhen, but I agree with you. It's a really ridiculous fee. I don't think I think he's a great striker. Had a fantastic season with Lille, but that's a lot of money. Like it's something like 70 million euros or something like that. And I wouldn't have spent that much money, particularly when you look at the attack that you have and the fact that it's good for probably at least one more season, and using that season you could have betted some more of the players into the side, particularly Lozano, who had a terrible season last season, but I really still think there's a player there. Plus they let go of Callejon on loan to Fiorentina, but overall looking at their window, I think you could probably see it as kind of a plus because They kind of kept the core of the team together. Remember, like Fabian Ruiz was always linked with moves away. Koulibaly, who I never think will be sold because they just kept pricing him out of a move. Plus, I don't think he's really the best option for a lot of teams now. So I think like they'll be very, very competitive, but I don't think they're like, it's nowhere near the level of quality of your Inters, your Atalantas, and your Juves. But again, Juve, terrible window.
All right. Is that all of our bests? Like we kind of got lost in
Yeah,
conversation.
like it was a mess.
All right. Now, worst window in
Uh,
Italy. We'll go to you, Nick.
I'm actually gonna say Juventus. And I think it's weird that I would say that, but if you look at the actual way that the squad building has happened, I think that it's pretty poor, because they kind of sat on their haunches a little bit and didn't really take care of a lot of things. So like Kulusevski came in, but that was a January move that was just kind of made. That was done, and Kulusevski will be great. But Pirlo has now come in as the manager, and from the first couple of matches, it suggests that he wants to kind of control the ball, possess it, play kind of just a
By that
more
old school Italian way.
yeah. But in the end, like I don't think the squad building has really been fantastic. I think the midfield looks a little is there's really specific things that like need to happen in that midfield for it to be successful. You need to play Bentancur and you need to play Rabiot for them to be like actually like reliable midfield. But even then, like who else do you kind of fit into there? Because they brought in Artur, and so like and for the fee they brought in Artur for, which the net fee is really small when you leverage it against the Pjanic sale. It's like who else fits in there? What does the front line look like? I don't like the Morata signing at all. I think that's probably going to be a terrible move in the end. He'll get goals, but again, like it's a question of Juve wanted to win the Champions League. That's why they brought in Ronaldo. That's why they brought in De Ligt. Like that's why they bring in these players, because they want to just go for the Champions League. And I think they could actually lose Serie A. So like it's kind of one of those things that they didn't really secure their position. And like I like the signing of Weston McKennie, but I don't think it's really like the right decision. I don't think he's really going to fix things, and I don't think he's like a long-term solution for any of the midfield options. The defense is old. De Ligt and Demiral are just not going to get in while they're not fit. I just don't think they solved what they needed to solve, which was the aging squad. Like they got players out, which I'm like, I mean, they got rid of Higuain, they got rid of Matuidi, but the rest of the side, it just looks awkwardly put together. And I think if they lose Serie A, it could really damage Pirlo as a manager in terms of his reputation, because this is Juventus.
This is also his first senior team that he's.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a good
just
look.
got his badges too, so. But I mean, and then they brought in they brought in Chiesa from Fiorentina, and I don't see how Chiesa fits into that side. There's just so many players there that just don't seem to fit. Like Kulusevski seems to would be the first pick for that right side of the attack, and then from there, what do you do? Do you play Ronaldo in the middle with Dybala in behind? Do you play Dybala in the middle with Ronaldo out left? It's very confusing, and I don't necessarily know how they're going to solve the problems. And then like when you have Chiesa on top of that, where is he going to fit in? So
don't you forget that they signed the American God Weston McKennie. So,
yeah, which is just weird.
It's going to solve all their problems. All right, Seth, what do you got for the worst?
I think the problem with looking at the rest of Serie A is that nobody, like, other than the Osimhen transfer that I referenced, made like a giant move that doesn't really make sense. But I would like to point out some of the moves that Roma made because they brought in so many players and got rid of so many players. So they got rid of Patrick Schick, who Nick and I still believe has a chance of being world class and are really holding out hope for him. But
I'll get onto him later.
but what I don't understand is if you have Edin Dzeko, who is like basically a dinosaur at this point playing striker, and you don't keep Patrick Schick around, I really don't understand that. To replace Patrick Schick leaving, they brought in Borja Mayoral. I'll just let that simmer for a little bit. Borja Mayoral, which I believe was like
no one will ever know how good he is. Like no one will. It's so weird. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, that was £2 million, but €2 million. Sorry, so that's not that bad. But then they spent 11 million on Carlos Perez from Barcelona. 11 million? I'm confused there, because then you let Cengiz Under go, I believe, for free to Leicester or something like that. It was nearly free.
Yeah,
I believe.
It was a free transfer.
Yeah. Apparently they paid 3 million. But then also Alexander Kolarov, who has been the only thing keeping their goal contributions alive for the past like 3 seasons, goes also on a tiny fee. And you're bringing in Chris Smalling, who was excellent for you last year, but he's 30 years old and you're paying 15 million for him.
Yep.
And it's like, I really don't understand these signings, because then you're getting Mirash Kumbula, who had a great season in Serie A last year, on loan. Instead of trying to get a player like Chris Smalling on loan again because he's 30 and you shouldn't be investing 15 million into him, you sign Mirash Kumbula on loan, which I don't think even has an option to buy. I didn't hear about that. And you're spending 16 million on Jordan Veretout, who is basically an anomaly. I really am not sure like what his best position is. They've been playing him in the 10 recently, and I think that's just because Zaniolo had that horrible injury, but it's just like I really don't understand. And then on a free transfer, you pick up a permanent option on Henrik Mkhitaryan, and you pick up Pedro, who both play in the same position. Both of those players play as a right-sided attacking midfielder. And then you let Cengiz Under go, who has age on them by like 6 or 7 years. So I really just don't understand. I'm not going to go out and say that Roma like shit the bed and spent a lot of money, but they signed some strange players and let, in my opinion, some very talented players go, including the name I haven't mentioned yet, Justin Kluivert.
Yeah.
I think Justin Kluivert, letting him go is very confusing to me, because it's only a loan, because clearly the fit is not there at Roma. Yeah. And you should have tried to get a fee for him. And you should have tried to get a fee for him like last winter or last summer. So I really don't understand this business from Roma. But then again, Roma's ownership has been all over the place for the last couple of seasons. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, they do, like, every single one of their signings is always structured as a loan to buy. And it's weird when they do that, because they always lock themselves into these transfers, and the player will be there for a year, and in that year they'll do nothing, and then they have to buy them. That's the case with like Jordan Veretout. It's the case with a lot of these players. And something that you always want to keep in mind, right, when you're selling a player, like, or offloading a player in any form, is who's actually coming in for them. And you have to ask yourself why, right? Would it be a mistake to let them go for nothing or on loan, or just to let them go in general, right? So Kluivert was picked up by Leipzig, and Leipzig are always going to develop young players and always going to turn them into something a little bit better. Like anybody from the Red Bull group, if you see that they're in for one of your younger players, you have to think, why are they coming for this young player? And that should immediately suggest to you that there's talent there. I was kind of the same on when Atalanta kind of re-signed Caldara on loan from Milan. Like, I thought that was a poor move by Milan, because when you look, it's like Atalanta are coming in for one of my center backs. What does that tell me about that center back, right? So Yeah, like I mean the likes of Under leaving and the likes of Kluivert leaving, like you have to look at that and think, oh, like maybe there's something I'm losing out on. Because like Leicester are the best with transfers, but you have to think like Cengiz Under going to Leicester like makes sense. So why am I like why am I letting him go? And then obviously like Alessandro Florenzi, who I've never understand why they've just kind of axed him, because like he was like meant to be the leader. After you lose Totti and Rossi, like Florenzi was kind of next in line for the captaincy and everything. And so they let him go on loan to Valencia over the back half of last season, and now they're letting him go to PSG on loan, which is weird. So yeah, like I think they're kind of doing a little bit of a reset with some of the younger players coming in. So I don't really want to say like, because I don't necessarily know what the project is. So I'm not confident in saying like they're the worst window, but it's been a pretty bad window.
So Seth took my pick there for Roma. Just for different sake, I'm just gonna say Lazio. They didn't do anything really.
Nothing.
So I guess you said before that they overachieved greatly last season, which is I agree with you on that. So I guess it's not at the end of the world for them, but at the same time, like you're always trying to set new standards for yourself. So after having a great season like that, to try and not have another season like that, it's kind of disappointing. So that's all I really have to say. It's nothing to do with like the players they bought in and the players they threw out. It's just that. So that they should have done. No, Pepe Reina, Andreas Pereira. Those are the two guys that they really brought in. Like they really didn't do anything.
There's one elite talent there. he's older than 30.
And he's bald.
he's at the end of his career. One of the one good thing that they did do was they tied down Strakosha. And Thomas Strakosha had a phenomenal season last year. One of the best keepers in the league, in the world. Like he seriously great shot stopper. The fact they tied him down for the long term, that's a plus. Because like he was actually my first pick when people were talking about who's Chelsea going to buy as a goalkeeper. Like I was like, it's pretty obvious. Like, that's one plus. So they've secured their assets, but yeah, they have not turned it up. So I think it's a good shout.
But other than that, I don't think we got anything else for the Italian league, no?
No.
All right, now we're going to go to Deutschland. We're going to Germany.